Daniel was an Israelite from Judah, who was taken captive to Babylon when Jerusalem was conquered. But Daniel did not forget where he came from. In Daniel 9, Daniel was reading the prophecy of Jeremiah. God had said that the captivity and desolation of Jerusalem would last 70 years. When Daniel realized that the 70 years were coming to an end, he turned to God in prayer. And something happened, while he was still praying. Daniel 9 verse 23 says, "As soon as you began to pray, a word went out, which I have come to tell you." Before Daniel finished praying, God had already sent Gabriel. Gabriel came to Daniel, and gave him understanding. But God's answer was greater than Daniel's immediate request. God was thinking about something much bigger. It was as if God was saying, "Daniel, I am not only dealing with the 70 years. I am working according to a much greater plan. I am not only restoring a city, I am working toward the ultimate solution for sin, and the coming of the Messiah." Daniel received God's answer, but he did not personally see the entire restoration that followed. After the Babylonian captivity, the Persian king Cyrus allowed the Jewish exiles to return to Jerusalem. The restoration unfolded step by step, and in God's appointed time, the Messiah came. This teaches us that God's answer does not always come in the way or at the time we expect. Sometimes God gives us the promise, before the fulfillment. Sometimes He gives us assurance, before we see the result. Sometimes He begins something in our lifetime, that will be completed by another generation. Daniel is a beautiful example of this. As soon as you began to pray, a word went out. Daniel 9 verse 23. This does not mean that every prayer will be answered exactly as we ask or immediately. It means that God hears the prayers of His people, and works according to His wisdom and His plan. Daniel prayed for restoration, but the answer was not limited to his lifetime. His prayer became part of a story, much larger than himself. Sometimes God allows us to pray for something we may never personally see completed. That does not mean our prayer was wasted. We may not understand God's timing, because God sees the whole story, while we see only one chapter. Daniel saw only the beginning of the restoration. God saw the temple, Jerusalem's walls, generations to come, the Messiah, and ultimately, His plan of redemption. So, when you pray and nothing seems to be changing, do not assume that nothing is happening. You may not see the answer today, but that does not mean God is not working. Daniel prayed on earth. Heaven moved. Daniel could not see the whole answer, but God could. We may not see what God is doing, but God sees what we cannot see. Pray faithfully. Trust His timing. Leave the fulfillment